Computer use is a fun example. Computer use is incredibly useful. We're obviously experimenting also with okay, can we have something to scour LinkedIn for you using all of your own contacts and stuff like that? The problem with it is it's just so non-practical at the moment. It is incredibly slow. It needs your login. You can't get to places anymore. So practically implementing that in an enterprise setting is highly complicated. We can see deal sizes increase by 1.9 to 2x of what they are when people are actively using this. Our biggest goals are how do we double those and how do we double those again? So we're very outcome based, and that's getting deeper with our current customers. Free reasoning is all fun and great, but in enterprise fully free reasoning is just not that helpful. For research and exploration, free reasoning is great. Networks of agents are not going to deliver it, and a fully hard-coded set of flows is absolutely not the modern way of solving things. The way somewhere in between that gets me a well-defined, repeatable enterprise output. That's kind of the direction that we are pushing our agentic reasoning in.
Hey everyone, welcome to Beyond the Prompt, and I'm your host, Sunny. And this is the show where we go deeper than the hype, where we go beyond just the prompt. And on this podcast, I talk with product, engineering, and go-to-market leaders who are building AI-native products and using AI to supercharge how their teams operate. If you're looking to scale your business with AI or want to learn from those doing it at the frontier, then you're at the right place. If you're interested in coming onto the podcast or just want to chat with me on the cool things you're doing with AI, then check out the link in the description to get in touch. Are you wondering how massive sales forces at companies like Microsoft, Salesforce, or Databricks are leveraging AI to consistently hit their targets and understand complex customer needs? A huge part of the answer lies in sophisticated AI-driven insights, and today's guest is right at the heart of building that technology. Today, I'm joined by Frank Wittkampf, head of applied AI at DataBook. DataBook is a platform designed to supercharge enterprise sales productivity to the next level. They don't just offer generic AI. They build deeply specialized systems that analyze vast amounts of data, financial reports, news, competitive landscapes, and even proprietary insights to tell salespeople exactly what to position, why, and when. They are beyond simple chatbots or freeform AI agents. DataBook focuses on applied AI, using what Frank calls guided reasoning to ensure the insights delivered are consistent, reliable, and directly drive sales outcomes, like significantly increasing deal sizes. In this episode, Frank dives into how DataBook's AI works, why a guided approach beats pure agentic systems in enterprise, how to manage the challenge of people over-imagining AI's current capabilities, how they navigate the R&D frenzy to deliver real value, and their vision for a future where AI proactively coaches you. Let's get into it. Frank, thank you so much for joining me. I'd love to have you share a little bit about what DataBook is, what the company does, and your kind of role as head of applied AI at DataBook.
Of course, and thank you for having me on. DataBook is a platform that enables salespeople at enterprises to sell. We basically help increase the productivity of large sales forces. The types of customers that we're serving are like a Microsoft, a Salesforce, a Databricks, and larger companies like that. These companies have tens of thousands of salespeople, and if you're trying to manage and ensure that people are productive, sell to a consistent level, and use the right insights, that's the type of stuff that you use our product for. And then my role at the company, leading applied AI, means that anything AI reports up to me. Our goal is to build systems that actually deliver AI outcomes, not just let's connect some fun agents together, but how do we actually deliver something to a salesperson that allows them to be more productive or better informed or work in a way with their customers that allows them to sell better.
Nice. So I'd love for you to dig more into, what are some of the AI native features that you have in DataBook? How are you able to deliver new value with LLMs and agents that we couldn't have done before for LLMs?
Sure. I think what's interesting about DataBook as a company is was founded in 2017, so been around for a little while. And the platform basically has a lot of layers of insights that are built into the core of it from before AI. So the what's great for my team is like we have a lot of material to work with to be able to deliver like a decent answer. What the core of it is like if you ask a question like, okay, I would like to prioritize my accounts and figure out who I should sell to, or hey, I am selling to, I don't know, some company that you're trying to sell for, like let's say you're at a big tech company, you're trying to sell to Nike. Like, what should I position for Nike? The thing you don't do is just have an LLM and throw a bunch of data at it and have it execute. The thing you do is say, okay, given that what I know about this customer or this list of accounts, like what are the sets of steps that I should take to resolve this problem, and then apply that problem solving in the right order such that you can come to a decent answer. So a lot of the work we do is how do you guide either an AI agent or a workflow to a certain outcome, and do that in a way that makes sense from a sales methodology perspective. And that's a little less straightforward because if you just connect like a set of agents together, then it's fairly ambiguous what it might end up at. And in enterprise, you often want to deliver versus a very consistent outcome. So you need to have a more guided type of a setup to be able to do that. Does that make sense? Or did I miss anything you wanted to know?
No, that was good. And then I don't think you mentioned it, but who are like some of the customers for DataBook?
Yeah, so Salesforce is a main customer, Microsoft, Databricks. There's a set of other large companies, but I'm not allowed to disclose all of them.
Yeah,
But
no worries.
they're companies with very large sales forces and that have like tens of thousands of sellers. And yeah, we're basically then a tool that those sellers can use within those companies.
Yeah, and it's pretty incredible because, Salesforce and Microsoft, they're definitely touting externally that they're like an AI forward company. And it seems like you guys have figured ways to deliver value to them that they haven't done internally in like creating their own tools to like deliver something similar. What do you think is like differentiated in DataBook versus what they could have done themselves or like any other kind of providers of similar platforms?
First, I think they have amazing platforms, and they allow you to look across a ton of your enterprise data, to run stuff across a lot of different systems. So, like, I think their platforms are awesome. The thing is like we are highly specialized on like figuring out these sales processes. So, like, there's years of perfection on like how do you run this type of a process. So for example, like when you do we often try to make sure that the seller strategically positions their product right. And for that, they actually need to understand the company that they are selling to. And to understand that company, you need to know, okay, like I mentioned Nike earlier, like how is Nike doing competitively versus Adidas and other shoe companies? You need to go pretty deep, like with a like almost like a Wall Street like financial analysis to properly understand that. And we've got a bunch of normalization and comparison and put it in the right set. And now if these are weaknesses, then you should go look at like when were there stock drops and what news was there exactly around specific stock drops, etc. That give you like interesting information. Like these companies have fantastic products, but given our like depth of focus, there's parts that we can solve more proper. And they're trying to solve for everything, and we're trying to solve for like a piece. And I think that's where a lot of it comes in. And then secondly, like some of these things, I think the industry is starting to realize that outside of working with agents, there's actually a pretty deep need for a combination of agents and workflows. And we've been working that like a bit longer than most people have. And therefore, I think we can get to a significantly higher quality output than a Perplexity Pro or something like that might get you, or that a generic Copilot implementation might get you.
Yeah, so it's like the like focus over the years and like being very deep and very intentional of like, oh, we want to make sure for these specific use case, it's super high quality, like way deeper than anybody else would spend time on in building a product for them.
That's
Is that
right.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Anything else in terms of like AI native features in DataBook that you want to share that's special and differentiated? It also sounds like there's a little bit of you're grabbing a lot of public information and processing that. I'm also curious if you're also grabbing any kind of proprietary information, and you don't have to share the sources, but like any specific sources where you're like, oh, like we have special access to that others don't.
So there's a lot of data we use. A set of it is paid data. So like there's an infinite amount of companies that could deliver you data. So I mean, imagine the following scenario. Like again, like I'll just keep pulling on the Nike example. I'm a seller at a very big enterprise and I'm trying to sell something to Nike, I might have a portfolio of several dozen products that I could sell to them. What matters is like, is this the right time to sell to this company? What has Nike bought like in the past from us and from others? There's like technographic data behind that. There is the strategic types of analysis that I told you about, which is us. We have a large proprietary data set where we do cross-company analysis that we runs continuously in our back end that already sets up a lot of the answer that you will use to later use like in a sales argument. So the trick here is like, and with most AI is like, for AI to deliver you a proper answer, you actually need to pre-solve that answer like pretty thoroughly if you want to do good at it. So a lot of things we have pre-solved in our infrastructure, and like using and recombining that is where some of the magic actually happens.
Awesome. So then tell me a little bit more about your kind of day-to-day as head of applied AI at DataBook. Like, what does that kind of look like? What does like a typical week look like?
Sure. So I just came out of discussion with the group of our company. That's one of the main things we talk about there is let's talk through an actual customer use case. Let's talk to, okay, we're trying to make sure that we up-level this salesperson that is like working in one of our customers' companies. How do we actually up-level them? Like, what coaching do we give to that person? What types of information do we need to surface to them when? How would we actually, like, from just without technology, just purely looking at what their job is, like, how do we improve that? Out of that, taking a set of requirements, it's like, these are like incremental things that we could put into our product. Like, that's part of my day, which is more like the translating product management like things into like what does this actually mean for technology. Another part is like we have like an existing infrastructure, and like everybody, like we dove into the AI side when the AI explosion happened, and built a lot of infrastructure. And the world is changing so rapidly that like a set of things that we've built, like they're like we're like replacing by better ways of doing the same thing, right? So a lot of my work comes down to like, okay, you've got this ever-growing body of business logic that you're trying to manage your AI flow or your problem solving through. Like, what are the best ways to compartmentalize all this like business logic and information such that it stays usable and maintainable over time, and such that we can recombine it into new experiments and new parts of a product that we can work with. So there's a lot of how to make these parts reusable? How do I make it into subparts that we can kind of recombine into like new solutions? And then what does that mean for architecture? And that's I would say at least 50% of my time goes to like, okay, like how do I translate this to something that we can build faster on in the future, so that we can accelerate our product delivery that's some real time.
Yeah, definitely had lots of conversations of that continuously on our side as well. I'm not leading like on the engineering side, but the engineering lead, he's like a VP of software engineering. He definitely talks about that a ton, which I also really appreciate, because then he's always thinking about, we're using it for this use case right now, but I'm also thinking about how can I make it so that it's its own piece and reusable for other use cases as well, which super appreciate as a product person, so that it's reusable for other teams as well, not just like my team.
Yeah, I think the R&D element is like very important here. Like anybody that works in this space knows it's like it's moving so fast. Like if you can't experiment and try new things, then you also can't get better than other people at doing something, right? So how do I allow as many people in my company to experiment with the pieces that we have requires you to build in a slightly different way than if you just have a product spec and you try to deliver against that. So that simple things of like, okay, like how do I make prompt engineering faster, to like, how do I make it easier to recombine agents into different configurations, to how do I like make the composing of flows and outcomes such that like a lot of people can work at it at the same time and they don't interfere with each other but still can deliver like proper outcomes. That's a lot of the fun of it.
I'm curious because I think it's been interesting as we're building AI products and agents as well on top of LLMs. Part of it is a lot of people, product engineering designers, don't even know what LLMs are capable of, or like what is even possible. And so there isn't like a strong sense of like what is possible, what is not possible, and then what is possible is constantly shifting because there's new model updates, things get cheaper. OpenAI released computer use, Like, how do you think about and have approached like this balance between um, R&D, but also like not spending too much time on the like doing too much R&D and too much engineering R&D that don't end up like driving customer results? How have you figured out and find that balance of let's explore something because we think maybe we could do it, but then there's another one of like we don't even understand this technology yet, and like maybe we should just spend time like exploring the technology in general, right? How do you think about that?
Yeah, I've got two pieces to that answer. Like one part is the thing that you mentioned at the start is people not even imagining like the possibilities that are there. And I think there's a contrast to that is into like people completely over imagining like what it actually could do. And then the second part you ask about is the like how do you balance the experimentation versus real? Like for us, the main thing that I do with the team is when we do a specific experiment or when we have a new piece that we want to do, like always couple it to a use case that allows me to deliver something that's incremental to what I currently have. Orchestration is like incredibly key in the AI world. Obviously, I think a lot of your discussions will hit the orchestration point. Hooking ourselves to one way of orchestrating, I think is wrong because I know that I don't know the future regarding orchestration. So we have multiple ways of orchestrating within the company, and we're trying to, for each of them, say, okay, if we orchestrate in this way, like what's the incremental business value that it would deliver us? And now let's take an actual business sales use case because we're in a sales space, obviously, that I can now enable because of this. And now, okay, this experiment is now tied to that use case. Like, show me that it can deliver that use case. And like that point tied to like specifically orchestration, I think is very, very important because it's like such an ambiguous space as to like how that is going to resolve. I have a few bets that are similar to each other on the orchestration space, and I'm basically playing them out and trying to make sure that I don't overinvest engineering time in both, but such that I do know I can quickly learn. Okay, I get a lot of extra value out of like this new experiment that we're doing. Maybe I should start like shifting my balance a little bit more to orchestration method number 2 instead of 1 and 3 that I was leaning on because this starts to like deliver some more. But the main answer to what you just asked is like I'd like tie it to a use case. But going back to like point 1 that you said, which is, hey, some people don't even know can't even imagine what comes out, and it's hard to keep track as well. And on the other side, like there's like, I think people that just over imagine what it can do. I actually run into the like people over imagining it more than the other side. Cause like, I think there's a reason why my title is applied AI. Like the applied part is like deliver value with this thing. And there's like tens of thousands of salespeople like actually using my product on that like when I change it, they will see it. The applied part is like, that's great. Like computer use is a fun example here, right? Like computer use is incredibly useful. So like we're obviously experimenting also with like, okay, can we have something to scour LinkedIn for you using all of your own context and stuff like that? The problem with it is it's just like so non-practical at the moment. Like it is incredibly slow. It needs your login. Like it's being slowly like shielded by people so that like you can't get to places anymore. So like practically like implementing that in like an enterprise setting is like highly complicated, especially if you have to get through security clearing and all that type of stuff. So I think it's almost unhelpful sometimes that like people have this idea of like, well, it can do anything, because if you apply it to an enterprise use case, like practically delivering on that specific thing in the coming few months is going to be highly, highly complicated. Doesn't mean that we're not experimenting with like, okay, how would this work? And like, can we do this ourselves? And can we practically deliver it? But there is a real reality part to my job, which is to like, if this thing doesn't actually deliver value to our customers like very, very quickly, then let's focus on the things that it does first.
I'm curious on how you test and experiment it quickly.
Okay, so we have a bunch of customers and they're working with us a lot. So we have a set of 4 deployed engineers that are like helping our customers like quickly go through sets of use cases. That is like our platform comes with pretty much all functionality baked in, but our customers come with like, couldn't you also do X, Y, Z? And for that, like we basically like draw in a lot of extra work because we're trying to custom expand and then build that into our platform. So a lot of it comes from there. It's like, okay, there's like real pain points and user needs. Like let's experiment along those. And then we try to couple like, okay, like how would you use AI to be able to do that? And I think it's helpful to take kind of like a customer focus focus on what do I do, because otherwise I can just be live experimenting in any direction. So that's, I think, the key answer to what you're asking is what do we do? I think that the couple it to something that the customer wants is like the biggest thing. And then secondly, it's just like lowering the barrier as much as you can to experimentation, so that like everybody loves to play with AI agents and loves to play with flows. So like lowering the barrier to less technical people in my company to be able to play with that and come up with fun stuff for themselves. So like we have our salespeople themselves actually, like what's fun is we have a sales product so we can dog food it to our own salespeople like quite a bit. Allowing that experimentation so that people can just go ahead and we don't direct it is the other part.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you touched on it a little bit of, you are selling to salespeople, but you have salespeople internally, and so there's a little bit of dog fooding. And you also talked about how you're lowering the barrier of entry for allowing your team to experiment and play around and see what they can kind of build. Is what it sounds like. Any anything in particular you want to share there of like what you've seen as like super impactful and powerful of like how your teams or how your salespeople have kind of like put agents together, or use any other LLM tools to like deliver new value for themselves, and then you realize you could resell it to your users?
Yeah, so our product has an interface in which that's a set of ways you can get to it. But one of the interfaces is chat AI type of interface like you would expect. Like our salespeople are on that continuously. And what we have internally in our company is like of all of our prompt set and flows, etc., that we have a specific space for every person in let's call it like a store for every person in which they're able to completely customize their own basically DataBook AI. So that means that like even my CEO and others in the company have complete ability to change things that would break it for them. Like they're able to play with that because it only affects their own instance. So in that sense, we give people like pretty deep reach into the platform as to like what they can change. But the fun thing is when they touch it, it only affects like theirs. It doesn't affect anybody else. The other thing is like anything that we roll out internally first. So there's a heavy dog fooding and like heavy experimentation there, especially around like one of the things we care about a lot is having like a full closed loop, which is you don't just like ask our product things and then it comes with answers. No, we actively want our product to engage and coach with you throughout time, even if you don't engage, and follow up on things that like it has recommended and done for you. That is heavily used internally, that is going to our customers and some part experimentation there. But that's for us kind of like really the big change that's coming in AI is not just like you engaging with it, but it engaging with you and helping you. And that's really our big next leap forward.
Yeah, being proactive. That I think is also a trend I've been hearing as well, for sure. Um, Awesome. So, what's next for DataBook? DataBook has been around since 2017, has some pretty nice clients as well. Like, what's next for the next 6 to 12 months for DataBook beyond
Huh.
what you just shared in terms of proactive, right?
Yeah, I mean, some of my answer there is going to be relatively generic. It's like, look, we have some like amazing, incredibly large customers, and like going deeper with them is always like a large part of our goals. Like we're enabling things, but like the amount of things that we can still build out for them is just like endless. So we can get so much deeper. Everything for us gets like really set into what are our customers' results. So like we for example, like right now mostly we can see deal sizes increase by like 1.9 to 2x of like what they are when people like are actively using this. Like we help people generate extra pipeline. Our biggest goals are like how do we double those and how do we double those again? So like we're very outcome based, and that's like getting deeper with our current customers. Then like we have a very heavy like big enterprise focus, and we're basically expanding towards like can we like how many more customers can we get to, growing from the really big ones like to the slightly less big ones, etc. So we have kind of a top-down market approach with a little bit Apple-like. Let's come with a very high-value product and grow down, and that's really what we're pushing on. But that's a lot of that is in growing our product deeper.
Yeah.
So that's the main focus. What that
Yeah.
means from like, if obviously you want to know more AI things, like what it means for us from an AI perspective is free reasoning is all fun and great, but in enterprise, like fully free reasoning is just not that helpful. For research and exploration, like free reasoning is great. Guided reasoning is and that there's a there's a difference between completely declared reasoning, completely free reasoning, and guided reasoning. And like the guided reasoning of like we get you to this very specific outcome we know to get you to, but the steps in between are not necessarily fully known. Like that's the part where we're pushing pretty hard, because just like networks of agents are not going to deliver it, and a fully hard-coded set of flows is absolutely not like the modern way of solving things. Like
Yeah.
the way somewhere in between that gets me a well-defined, repeatable enterprise output. That's kind of the direction that we are pushing our agentic reasoning in. It's like, okay, I can get you to a very reliable output, but I get it through still a set of free reasoning. And how do you balance that?
Gotcha. Gotcha. I like your I didn't even think about it, but like you're right, I definitely agree. It's somewhere in between. It's not either end of the either workflows are like completely free. What do you think is your biggest roadblock as a company in terms of reaching that next 6 to 12 months vision?
I mean, I think when you play in the enterprise space, the working with data and data that is like deep proprietary data of large companies, like we do a lot of that, but uh, the length of time it takes to get through like all of the approvals, etc., that you do is definitely
Hmm.
those. Like if you're an enterprise, then you also deal with enterprise speed on decision making, and that is slower than if you go to startups. So like those things are always interesting. What we see there is like we see some really cool developments on using, I don't know, for example, what Databricks does is like together with Databricks being able to set up structures such that like you're not exactly sharing data, but still being able to access joint data sets, like is incredibly useful for us. Like there's real fun work there, but those are also big hurdles. So we're deep in people CRMs, but there's so much more that we can do. So
Yeah.
that's
Cool.
kind of
That's awesome. That's awesome. I am curious, what could you share a little bit more of what Databricks does? I'm not familiar with Databricks does in terms of it sounds like there's a little bit of actually I'm not even sure. Like you tell me, like what is Databricks doing that's like interesting in being able to like set it up for their customers?
well. So if you I think it's called Delta Lake. So if you basically set up a data structure that you have joint access to, but you don't have the ability to actually like replicate the information that's in it. You can do fun agentic work without ever like data leaving your customer's premise, while you can still like operate on top of it. And there's different ways you can approach that, but the premise of saying like, look, another example is if you work with a lot of customer data, like there's lots of tools that allow you to ingest almost or connect to almost anything. The proper way is to make like API use of all of these things so that people can just like play and say like, hey, like this is the access you have right now. When I lift it, you're out, and there's no remnant of my data like that you have. So whether you ingest or have API access or do like a Delta Lake setup or you use other structures to solve this problem, I think what matters there is like in any of these setups, there's a lot of trust that you need to have with your customer. For us, it goes kind of on like how long of a relationship do you have with this customer and how much value have they seen you deliver. At some point, some executive says, hey, like this is enough value that I'm willing to share XYZ data with you. And the dynamic that we're seeing is like with these very large customers, like we're quite deeply integrated with them, is as you deliver, people are willing to start to take a bit more risk is the wrong word, but are willing to more deeply integrate and work together with you because it's just so valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like Snowflake's a company where like you literally store all of your data in, right? And so like there's that point where you're like, no, I'm not going to run my own data centers. I'm actually just going to pay this company to store all of the data of our users, right? For example. Cool. All right, I have a last few questions to close it out. So this is my favorite question to ask folks, which is, what are you most proud of and why? And it can be personal or professional.
I get a lot of my satisfaction from how my team works and how kind of like interaction goes. Like everybody has different motivations for their work. Like when I worked at McKinsey a long time ago, we had a framework for like, okay, like, hey, within a workforce there's actually a set of different motivations that people have. Like some people are financially motivated, other people are like really motivated by like I help the world, others by pleasing others, etc. And my motivation is very much like if my team is like highly performant, like that makes me incredibly happy. So the thing that I'm most proud of is like I came into this company as kind of like an outsider where there was a set of like AI initiatives going on. And now all of a sudden the team has a person that says like, okay, this is the direction we're going in with AI. The thing I'm very proud of is like I with the team like basically came to the conclusions like, hey, we need to start building like alternate infrastructure, but like how do we actually build it into our current? And we found a way to kind of mix this agentic and workflow work together in a way that like delivers higher quality outcomes than we had before. And the fact that we like what often happens is someone comes in and is like, okay, let's just go start build everything new, or like, okay, we're just going to keep extending the thing we have. Like the fact that we figured out a way to basically take our AI approach, blend this new approach in of like how do you work with like complicated agent networks in a workflow setup that gets you to more deterministic outcomes while still having like free steps in between. That took like a real amount of problem solving and a lot of back and forth and emotions were like going high and lows and like, no, we can do this, yes we can. Like for me, like the biggest satisfaction of like this period at DataBook for me has been like being able to resolve that in a way that like builds on and with our system but still takes this new view and new vision of the future. I think is like highly satisfying, and it is fun because I can see like when I read a lot online obviously about what everybody's doing, and I feel like we're like on the edge of where people are. Like we're doing things internally, and then at some point later we'll see things described online. We're like, yeah, I think we're headed in the direction that like where general the direction's going, and that's just super fun. It's like really fun to feel like you're like on the edge of something where
Absolutely.
things are being figured out.
Yeah. That kind of like push-pull struggle of trying to figure out something that's kind of vague and then figuring it out, and then you're realizing other people are figuring out around the same time or even ahead of it as well. And it looks like you guys have built an incredible team to be able to do that, and very principled as well in terms of how you guys thought about it as well. All right, last question. Where can people find you online if they want to learn more about you or DataBook, and how can listeners be helpful to you?
And yeah, so my name, Frank Wittkampf, like my last name is like ultra complicated. So there are two people in the world with my name. So like when you Google me, it's like pretty easy to find me. And the other person is actually a far away related family member too. So like it's pretty easy to find me on LinkedIn at Frank Wittkampf. It's pretty easy to find me on Medium. I write some AI pieces on there towards data science. I like them a lot. Then yeah, I'm also to be found at a lot of AI events in the Bay Area because I like to kind of like hop around and see what people are working on. But any other thing you were aiming at?
Nope. But I didn't know you wrote for Towards Data Science. I know that is a very highly respected medium publisher, especially in data science, for sure.
I
All right.
love them. They make fantastic stuff.
All right. How many articles have you written for them?
I think I published 3 with them.
That's a good
Something
bit.
like that.
That's a good bit.
I don't want to overemphasize the importance, but it's super fun. Like I really enjoy it. It's a good way for me to kind of reflect on like what's going on and take a step back and figure it.
100%. 100%. All right, Frank, thank you so much for your time.
You too, Sonny. Really nice to talk to you.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Beyond the Prompt. If you enjoyed this discussion, please subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss future episodes with other leading experts in the AI space. Also, if you could take a moment to rate and review the podcast, it would help me tremendously in reaching more listeners and bringing you more great content. Until next time, keep going beyond the prompt.